Is the NHL preseason basically meaningless? Yes. Is it also always fun to beat the Penguins? Yes. We discuss on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jacket, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Blue Jackets should absolutely have won this game, is the thing. And much in the same way that I'm unsurprised that they lost the game on Monday night. No, Tuesday night, excuse me. Against the Sabres, because it was, Zach Aston Reese and friends against quite a lot of the Sabres regular season guys. This was a whole host of baby Penguins and AHL guys versus what I imagine the top six is going to be for the Blue Jackets, plus Werenski and Fabro, plus a couple of guys that we're going to talk about in a minute, who I think could be a very, very capable third pairing together. And Jack Greaves doing Jack Greaves things. Like, the Blue Jackets should absolutely have won this game. It's not, I'm not going to pretend it wasn't fun, but it was extremely expected. They absolutely should have won this game. I think if they'd lost this game, well, we still wouldn't be like, oh, the season's over, everything is terrible if they'd lost a preseason game, right? But when you look at the on-paper roster, you absolutely, this is a game that you should win, every day and twice on Sundays, right? And there was lots of good stuff in the game as well. We're going to talk about goaltending in a minute, but the special teams were good. The Blue Jackets had 2 power play goals, and they needed 7 attempts to score those 2 power play goals, mind you. But they had 2 power play goals and a shorthanded goal, even if it was an empty net goal, which, as we all know on this podcast, empty net goals don't count. Sorry, Dante Fabro. And the Penguins were 0 for 5 on their power play. So the Blue Jackets had a 100% success rate on the penalty kill. So special teams, great. Again, kind of expected. They had most of their big guys there for, at least for the power play. Some guys missing for the penalty kill, I think, but your top power play unit was all there of Jenner, Voronkov, Monahan, Marchenko, Werenski. And then your second unit, Fantilli was there. Coyle is on the second power play unit. Chinakhov on the second power play unit. It's probably going to be, I think Provorov was the defenseman that they had on the second power play unit in practice. And one more guy who I am definitely forgetting. Sillinger, probably, maybe. I don't know. But the point is, they had all of the top power play unit there, right? And it did the work, right? Kent Johnson, power play goal. Jake Christiansen was playing on the power play on that second unit, and he also got a power play goal. Jake Christiansen had an excellent game, by the way. He's had a good preseason so far, right? Like, he's stood out in the games that he's played, which again is always fun, right? But he's a guy that I think one of the quieter stories of training camp is, what's that bottom defense pairing going to look like? Because if it looks like it did last year, then, and by which I mean, if it looks like it's going to be 4 guys just constantly rotating in and out and not getting consistency, then that's a problem, right? But Jack Christiansen is one of the guys fighting for one of those bottom pairing spots, and I think he's putting his best foot forward. And I think he's, I think he's doing a pretty darn good job of it. Obviously, the defense is kind of a question mark at the minute. Dennis Matejchuk still hasn't made his preseason appearance. I don't believe Dennis Matejchuk has been on the ice yet. He was day-to-day with a groin injury about a week ago. They said he should be good by this weekend, but I don't think he's quite 100% yet. So I'm not sure when we'll see him. The Blue Jackets preseason schedule goes down to a much more manageable, like every 2 or 3 days now, instead of 4 games in 4 nights, which was a lot. So, we'll see him at some point, but if it turns out that he has to be out for slightly longer, that's a room for Jake Christiansen, right? I still think that he would be my top choice for the third pairing. Like my choice, if we assume that the top four is written in probably most likely written in pen, right? You've got Werenski and Fabro, and then you've got, when he's healthy, Matejchuk and Provorov. And then on that third pairing, you've got, your choice of Christiansen, Severson, Gabranson, maybe Rendon Smith, who I'll talk about in a second as well. But I don't know that they should carry 8 NHL defensemen necessarily. That to me feels like that's too many defensemen. I know that you can never have too many defensemen, really, but you want a solid third pair, right? You want guys to play, if not every night, then almost every night. And if you ask me, again, looking at how Brendan Smith has done in this preseason, and we'll talk about Brendan Smith in detail in a second, of those 4 guys, like my choice for that third pairing would absolutely be Christiansen and Smith, right? I don't know what's going to happen with Severson. It looks like he might get some second line reps with Provorov if Matejchuk is out for any length of time. Gabranson is probably going to be on that pairing regardless because the team loves him, and it looks like it's going to be Severson and Gabranson would be my guess for who the team picks as their third pairing. However, for my money, based on just kind of watching him over the last couple of years and also watching him specifically in this training camp and preseason, Jake Christiansen should absolutely be on that third pairing. And honestly, the more I watch of Brendan Smith, the more I'm like, oh, okay, he's getting on a bit in years. He's here at a PTO, obviously, so he doesn't have a guaranteed contract. He looks like a real option on defense. I have been really, really impressed with Brendan Smith. He is just kind of, again, he's not fancy. He's not like, you're not going to get Zach Werenski numbers from him. You might not get very many numbers at all, but he is calm. He is, chill. He is extremely composed with the puck. I feel like every other shift, I see him and he's doing something, slowing the game down or taking the puck away from the other team, or putting pressure on, causing a turnover. Like he does all of the right things that you want a veteran defenseman to do, right? And especially a defensive veteran defenseman. Again, I don't think he's going to put up a ton of points, but I do think that that's what you want in a third pairing defenseman. I still don't know how they fit him in because, again, Severson's there, Gabranson's there, like Matejchuk's going to be back off IR. Like, I don't see how there's room to fit him in. But the more I watch of him, the more I'm like, no, they should make space for this guy. I have been really, really impressed with Brendan Smith, but I think Jake Christiansen was excellent tonight. I thought he was good last night as well. Obviously they didn't win. Or not last night. I'm recording this immediately after the game. So Tuesday night, Jake Christiansen in the loss to the Sabres as well, I thought had been very good. Like he just, again, he seems like he's taking this opportunity. And, Dean Everson talks a big game about how your contract doesn't dictate that you play. What you do on the ice dictates it. And if that is in fact true, then we absolutely should be seeing Jake Christiansen regularly this season, because I do think he is one of the 6 best defensemen on this team. And I think he showed that throughout the preseason so far. I don't know if we'll see him again super soon. My guess is you'll probably see, my guess is the next time we see Christiansen will be the final preseason game. Everson said that everyone was going to get 3 games, but I don't know whether that was everyone is getting 3 games at least, or everyone is going to get their 3 games and then every other game they'll get off. But I don't know that they have enough players to do that, actually. So my guess, we'll see Christiansen again, but probably not until the very end of the preseason now, because he's played a lot in these first few games, which makes sense. They want to see what they have in him, etc. But if this is all he's got to, in terms of opportunity to show Everson what he's got and that he's worthy of a spot, then he has done a fine job doing so. Speaking of guys that are doing the best they can to claim a spot on this roster, let's talk about Jet Greaves. Should he be the opening night starter? That might be a wild question for the 4th preseason game when we still have 3 to go, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and we'll talk about that in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I want to tell you about FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel fits however you like to bet, whether you want player props, whether you want a same-game parlay, you can even jump in live as the action unfolds. Makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it is the best way to add a little bit more energy to those game day Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I'm calling it. Jack Greaves, opening night starter. Unless Elvis shows us something in one of the next 3 games, and I suspect Elvis will probably get a full game. Like, my guess is that the next game that they play, Elvis will get the full game. Unless he is genuinely excellent in this game, Jet Greaves, for me, has earned the starter role for opening night. And maybe that's a little bit premature. You know, Elvis has played half a game, Jet's played 1.5 games, but small sample size aside, like, Jet Greaves just looks like he is a starting goalie. You know, the kid impresses me every time he gets on the ice. He was excellent again tonight. 24 of 25 saves against the Penguins. Didn't have a ton to do in the first. I believe through 2 periods he only faced 11 shots, but he faced, which means he must have faced 14 in that 3rd period, and he turned every single one in the way. Allowed 1 goal. It was about halfway through the 1st period, and after that, just shut the team down. Really, really impressive work from Greaves. Had some saves that were, just kind of standard. Had some truly excellent saves, breakaways. There was, again, the 3rd period, he really, really shined, I think, in a way that, again, it's preseason. It doesn't count. Jet Greaves still has a very small sample size of NHL ice time to look at. The more I watch him play, the more convinced I am that this kid's got something. And whether that thing is that dog in him, whether it's ice in his veins, whether it's his name on the Vezina at the end of this season, which I did joke about on Twitter last night, there's just something about Jet Greaves that, honestly, it's what I remember thinking about when we watched Elvis in his rookie season, right? Because he had, 5 shutouts in a stretch of 8 games. He was very, very good in his rookie season. He didn't win a lot of games because the team was miserably bad, but he had, I think, a .925 save percentage in his rookie year, and again had 5 or 6 shutouts on the season in his rookie season. And I remember watching Elvis then and thinking, yeah, this guy's got something. And I feel the same way about Jet. Now, Elvis has had a not the easiest path to where he is now, right? Like, he's had some trauma. He's had some less ideal situations. There's been a lot of upheaval in the team. There's been a lot of upheaval in his personal life, right? Like, 2 of his teammates died in the last 5 years, which is insane to think about because it shouldn't happen once, let alone twice in 5 years, right? And I think a lot of that has affected his development. I think he was rushed into the NHL, etc., etc. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Jack Greaves is going to turn into Elvis and, be this flash in the pan rookie season one-hit wonder almost. But I do get the same feeling from Jet that I got from Elvis' rookie season of, oh, we might be seeing something special here. But the difference to me is Jet's done his time in the AHL, right? Jet has done the work. I think that, honestly, Elvis should have done at least 1 season in the AHL. Shouldn't have gone straight to the NHL. Jet's done his AHL time, shows up, puts in the work, and has been the best goalie for the Blue Jackets this preseason, which, again, is not the biggest surprise, right? I think a lot of people were expecting this. The Blue Jackets NHL level goalies is kind of thin. They've really only had Elvis and Jet. Obviously, they've added Fedotov, who's been very good in the preseason as well. But it really was kind of a 2-horse race, and I think a lot of people suspected that Greaves was going to be the winner of that race, and he sure is. He sure is looking like it, right? Just every time I watch him play, I'm like, yeah, kid's just got something. I wish I had better words to explain what I mean, but kid's a gamer. Some guys just have it, and I think Jet Greaves has it, and I think he should be the starter on opening night. And again, I think it's premature. I tweeted about this on Twitter last night, and I had a couple of people agree with me. Someone else said, I think Elvis is the opening night starter, but he's on a really short leash, which I could also see. But for me, this team has to hit the ground running, right? This team has to be good from the hop, because every team around them is also going to be good from the hop. You have to get a running start. And I think you have to put yourself in the best position to succeed. And I think at the minute, Jet Greaves gives this team the best chance of succeeding. Unless Elvis really, and my guess is that Elvis plays the next game, which is on Saturday, and I believe is against the Penguins again in Pittsburgh. My guess is Elvis plays that game. It's going to be a very different game. A lot of the Pens' big hitters are going to be there. Crosby will be playing. Malkin will be playing. Marc-Andre Fleury will be playing for at least a period. I know he's not necessarily a Penguins' big hitter, but it'll be a much more different game than Jet got today. But Elvis needs to perform in this game. If he doesn't perform on Saturday's game and we get another, 800 save percentage from him, that gap between him and Jet has closed. And I think Jet is going to start easing on past Elvis. We've seen that Dean Everson is not afraid to bench the veterans if the young guys are playing better. And I think Elvis's leash is getting shorter and shorter and shorter the more Jet plays, which is great for Jet and a problem for Elvis. I was really hoping that this would kind of galvanize Elvis and help him be a better goalie to, I think the legitimate competition would be good for him, and maybe it still will. Again, it's very, very early. They have shared the net once this season, right? But the more I watch Jet play, the more I'm just like, man, the kid's got it, So continually impressed with what Jet Greaves does. Let's take another break before this turns into I just talk about Jet Greaves for another 24 minutes. And when we get back, what we'll do is I want to talk about a couple of other players that impressed me, that again needed to be impressive based on the stories coming into camp, etc. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. A couple of guys I want to talk about. First one is Yegor Chinakhov. We talked about the defense and how competent they looked. Great to see Werenski and Fabro back together. Smith and Christiansen were great. Hunt and Bjorkvik-Holm were about what I expected of them, which was 2 AHL defensemen, right? But the forwards, Yegor Chinakhov really, really impressed me. Very quietly, goal and an assist. Opened the scoring for the Blue Jackets with a patented Yegor Chinakhov shot, right? Just ripped it from round about the OV office, which is kind of, again, where he does a lot of his best work. He's got one of the fastest shots in the NHL for a forward. And if he can do that all season, then the Blue Jackets are going to be in good shape, right? I wondered how he was going to respond to this game. Obviously, the storyline coming into camp was, I want to play big minutes. If I can't do that here, I want to do that somewhere else, but I want to do it here, right? And he spent some time in the top 6 on Fantilli's wing in practice and etc. And tonight he was on the third line with Charlie Coyle and I believe, I don't remember who the third person on that line was, which I should know. But my point is, he was on the third line. Oh, it was Hunter McCown was on that line, I believe, or potentially Mikhail Pucha. I think Hunter McCown. And That line didn't play a ton. Chinakhov played 12:48. Coyle played 15:12 because he was on the penalty kill. McCown played 11:28. But again, a goal and an assist in 13 minutes of work is pretty good stuff from Chinakhov, right? And again, I wondered how he would respond to being put on the third line after spending a bunch of time in the top six, last year and also in training camp so far, practice sessions and whatnot. I thought that line was fine. Obviously, it won't have Hunter McCown on or Mikhail Pucha on that line in the regular season. But if you take those two players in Coyle and Chinakhov, I thought were both very good last night. Add, for example, a Cole Sillinger or a Boone Jenner or someone like that. That to me is not a typical third line. That's like a 2B line, right? You've got your first line, you've got your second line, and then you've got your like second line. And that is enticing. I don't know if that's going to be enough ice time for Chinakhov to be happy, but I think if he's playing and if he's producing, then it's going to be hard to argue. I still think his preference would be in the top six, but if he doesn't make it into the top six, but he gets put on a skilled line with someone like Coyle and someone like Sillinger, and they are allowed to do offense instead of trying to put him on a checking line and then being shocked when it doesn't go well, that feels almost like best case scenario for the Blue Jackets, right? If you have three lines that are legitimate threats for scoring, and if Chinakhov is putting the puck in the net, hopefully he's pretty happy as well. Another player that I want to talk about, actually, who, again, didn't do a lot, but has been a kind of carrying on from what he did last season, right? Mikhail Pucha has been very quiet in these games, I think, so far in the preseason, but not necessarily in a bad way, right? You don't notice him when he does anything wrong. Obviously, you want him to put some points together, maybe, but for a guy that played 8.5 minutes, had a shot on goal, finished a +1, I believe was on the ice for Chinakhov's game opening goal. I thought he was again quietly very good, right? The ideal guy that you want on the fourth line of maybe not creating as much as you want, but not giving up a lot either. And he's almost certainly going to be mostly in the AHL this season, but for a guy that kind of came out of nowhere last season, I wondered if it was a flash in the pan, if it was like this is he's just going to kind of revert to what he was before this season. But no, it seems like he's grown, he's adapted, he's learned, and I think he's going to have another really good season. So I just want to give him a little bit of a shout out because we've talked a lot about a lot of the big boys in this episode. And I suspect that will continue to happen as we get closer and closer to the regular season, right? Like the big boys, the big names will play more games. The guys that are not going to be on the roster will start to get sent down to the AHL. I think they've got rid of all of their CHL guys now, so it's just guys that will be going down to the AHL. I think Future will be one of the last guys to be cut, but I don't know how much more preseason game action he will get. So I thought I wanted to talk about him a little bit. James Malatesta doing James Malatesta things. I believe this is his second game in 2 nights. Just being kind of a general pain in the butt in the way that you want him to be, right? Luca Pinelli, I thought, was quiet tonight, or last night, but that makes sense. He's playing a much smaller role tonight than he was the last kind of couple of games that we've seen him play. He only played 9:50 in the game, was playing on that fourth line, with Malatesta and Pucha. Doing good things when he got the puck, he just didn't have the puck a lot, right? Which again is kind of expected. But honestly, for the most part, everyone did just great, right? Great game. Expected, should have been a great game, right? When you're playing your big names against the Pens, against essentially the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, you should be winning that game. So, I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, this was a perfect game and everyone should feel really proud of themselves. But I also don't think this was just the bare minimum, right? Because it's really easy to fall into a preseason trap of I'm the vet, we're the veterans. We're just kind of going through the motions, knocking off rust. It's the young guys and the AHL guys that are looking to make an impact, right? But it's always fun to get a win. I'm never going to sit here and complain about a win, right? That's not how this works. It's even better to beat the Penguins. even if it is, the shadow of the former selves. Just got to keep it rolling now. 2 days off, 2.5. The next game is Saturday, again against the Penguins, I believe, and we'll see how it goes. It might be against the Capitals, not the Penguins. I don't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a preseason game. I think we'll probably see some cuts over the next couple of days. I don't know who. I wouldn't want to guess, but it'll be the depth AHL guys that'll start to go. Kayla McDonald, Rylan Mosley, Roman Ashan, guys like that, right? That'll start probably making their way down to the AHL over the next couple of days. The opening night roster is basically set, I think. There's still a couple of moving parts. Obviously, the goalie is one of them, who's going to be the opening night goalie, and then, who's going to be 5 and 6 defensemen and who's going to be on that fourth line for the Blue Jackets. Still a couple of holes, still a couple of potential surprises on the horizon, but I think we're getting closer and closer to, okay, this is what this roster is going to look like. And we'll probably have a much better idea. Like this time next week, we'll know what the opening night roster is, I think. Which is exciting. We're real close to having hockey that means something back, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. I think tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about who's going down next in terms of who's getting sent down, who gets to stay back up, who has impressed me of the guys that are not locks for the opening night roster, all of that good stuff. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Thank you for listening to this episode, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. You can email me if you want at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Comments, questions, criticisms, etc. And thank you once again for listening. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.